Hey guys, welcome to our March Hug. Today I'm here with Harry, who's part of our team here in Neighborhood. And today we're also going to be talking all about the handoff from marketing to sales and how you can make sure you don't let any of those leads leak through. But yeah, it's a really good topic for this time of year, especially coming into end of financial year, don't you think?
Yeah, people are going to start chasing targets, trying to lock everything down. But it's also sometimes a bit of an eye-opener. If you're not on track for the year, then you can kind of sit there and go, okay, what's happened? And I think we get a lot of people come to us sometimes that want lead generation.
Yeah.
And sometimes we look at their portals and go, you actually have enough leads, you're just not servicing them in the right way. And there's that classic system of marketing saying, hey, we've given you loads, and sales going, they're not good enough or they're not the right fit. And so today we're going to look at ways in which we can pre-qualify, get more information, and also the flow and how HubSpot can help you do that.
I want to just remind you guys that next month's Hug will be up and available for you to register. So don't forget to register for it if you want to catch the next deep dive. So the link will be in the description below. But moving back over to marketing and sales leads. But just to set the tone, this is going to be a really great session to just kind of look at some of these best practices that help a business have visibility on what's going on with their leads, but also actually align internally on what the best definitions of what a lead is and who's responsible for what and when. But I think so many businesses would be able to agree that the moment you drop the ball on contacting a lead, usually within that first hour, if it's not contacted, it's instantly gone from hot to warm and very quickly cold. So the amount of revenue you could be losing as a business if you're just not contacting them in a timely manner could actually be detrimental, majorly detrimental.
Yeah. I think the stats are saying something around 10 times, which is really, is the value drops by 10 times if you don't contact them. I think that's quite surprising for some people to find out. I think we're in an age where everybody has access to more information than they've ever had before. You can get AI models to go and search for this information. And so if somebody's finding you, there's potential that they found 6 others. And so how do you stand out and how do you get their attention? And if you don't get back to someone for a day or two, if I sent an inquiry and nobody got back to me for a day or two, someone else has, and I've gone through that pathway because you're not, potentially you're not interested. And so it's really important. And so today we're going to step through what is a lead. That's potentially one of those things, using the lead object, the automation, and then how does that roll into deals? Because not every lead is a deal, people need to qualify it, but not everybody that comes through an ad is ready to be contacted either, ready for that sales process. So we want to look at that handoff. It's so easy to click on an ad. We get so many people that come through, submit a form accidentally. Facebook makes it very easy. You click on a thing, it pre-fills the information. Sometimes you just send you I didn't even know I did it. We've had people that legitimately come through before, I didn't even know I did this. And so you need to look at that qualification process. Yeah,
totally. And I think that's actually a really good point with, properly defining, when marketing should be handing a lead off to sales, because again, this could be contributing to the reason why you're missing those leads in time, because you've got your sales team with too many leads and they're having to sift through these unqualified leads to get to the good ones. And there's strategies on how we can better send the high quality ones to sales and leave the lower quality ones that still need a little bit more warming up with marketing until they're ready. So let's get into it actually. So I think first up, let's talk about some housekeeping on what do we need to have prepared in HubSpot to make sure that we're getting the most out of this visibility for leads.
Yeah, I think for the most part, you've got to decide if you're going to use the lead object or not. I have become a much bigger fan of this over time. And the reason being is businesses are getting a lot more inquiries and we need a way of defining those before they get to a deal stage. And the lead object, although some people have issues with it, it doesn't hold too much information. It is a very useful pre-deal pipeline to track people into.
I think it's a perfect qualification pipeline, because people have been doing it in deals.
Yeah.
And then you've got your deal funnel filled with all of this fluff.
It's not needed. Your close rate's wrong, everything's wrong.
Yeah.
So look, if it's not for you as a business, if you're small enough not to do it, absolutely fine, but you need to define whether you're going to use the lead object. And then there is actually a lead status drop down at a contact level that we've seen people use before. We have lifecycle stages, which obviously are there as well. So it's kind of like you have the lifecycle stages And then within lead, you have a separate lead status that's stored at a contact level, but then we have the lead object. And so over time, I think those things get a bit blurry into what you're actually trying to use and do. But also, it's important to use the back end of the lifecycle stages for automation. And so I think for the first thing I want to let people know is when you first go into a portal, the lead object isn't activated. You actually have to go and find it. So on your left-hand side, everybody knows your wonderful CRM tab where everybody lives for the most part. If you don't see the leads object in there, go and find it. And so HubSpot makes it very easy. You can just type the word leads into the search bar at the very top.
Yes, that search bar has gotten a lot better.
It's gotten a lot better. And if you're not going to access that way, just find it through the data model. So on the left-hand side under data management, you can go to data model. This area again has had a big facelift over the past 6 months. And when you first log into here now, it will show you the objects which aren't activated. And so you can then click on them and say activate object, and the leads is going to be one of them.
Perfect, okay.
A couple of minutes after you've done it, and on the left-hand side, built in your CRM, you will then see the leads pipeline. Under CRM, you'll just have leads right there. And a key part of this is the first thing that we always got to do, go into your settings in the background. There's not too much here, but if you go into pipelines, you do actually have the option to update some of these stages. If they don't quite fit your model, I wouldn't build this out to a full 10-stage pipeline. I think attempting connecting qualified or disqualified perfectly fits a lead, but you might have one more stage. I've seen
you might have like
few.
a qualification meeting or something, so it's like booked
Correct.
and then qualified almost.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and we mentioned this earlier when we were prepping for today, and that's if you do have an SDR team. I think this is a perfect area for them to work.
Totally, yeah.
In between there, you can kind of have that flow of leads coming through marketing, they reach the SDR team, you get that qualification, and then it passes off at that point to sales. And that's that flow of going kind of lead, that initial qualification towards an SQL. And then you're going to looking through that process there. But in the back end of the leads object and the pipeline rules, a couple of very simple ones. The main one being, if someone is qualified, they get a deal. That is your qualification process. That is, you go through and go, yes, these need to speak to a sales team. We need to get them a quote. We need to book a site visit. This has a chance to close. Our sales team should spend time and invest time into this.
Yeah, the consultative sales approach happens in the deal pipeline, whereas the qualification for SDRs, a perfect example, is your lead pipeline. It should be very simple. Because it's really just it's a process of going, are they a good fit? Are they truly ready to, have a serious conversation with us? And if so, let's pass them over to the next team to continue that process. But it's also okay if at this point they're not fully qualified as well. Like maybe it could be just they're a bad fit or the timing is not right, and that's okay. There can be a process of going, okay, they're disqualified and here's the reason. And then that can be an automated process to send them back over to marketing to do more targeted nurturing until they're ready again to go through that process.
Completely right, and that's where potentially that extra stage comes in the lead area. You could use the disqualification reason, or you could really make it re-engage one, and you say, okay, pop you into this stage here, and that can be used for segmentation at a marketing level, or you're retargeting on your ads or these other things. So, and just like you said there's actually a setting right here, which is if you disqualify a lead for certain reasons, HubSpot leaves the bad timing and budget as the examples, it can create a follow-up. So you will get a task already if the disqualification is that reason. So they are exactly what you said, prepping you for those exact reasons, because timing might not be right, budget might not be right, but that can change. And so it's a way of tracking those in the future.
I'm actually like a big advocate as well for making sure you have a plan to re-engage those leads, especially if you're paying for them. They've done most of the hard work coming to you in the first place. And if you don't have somebody circling back around periodically, that's just easy money lost as well.
That click cost.
Yeah.
Cost per click, cost per contact, especially when they're coming through ads. We've mentioned this a couple of times, we've seen people spend tens of hundreds of thousands on marketing. Each click costs you. For you, they just end up in a bucket somewhere that you do nothing with.
Why?
Not everybody's ready. And that's what I think you've got that matrix you're going to show people later today, which is some people are a good fit but not quite ready. But how do we get back to them when they are? So important part there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the lead object. I've started using it more and more. I've implemented it for a few clients recently, and exactly like you did, we did a re-engagement campaign just recently, because they were sitting there with, I think it was 4,000 or 5,000 in that lead board, and they were just, let's re-engage some. And the goal was really low. Like it was, let's just get a few meetings booked. But you have the tools, it doesn't cost you anything. You're paying, cost you anything more, you're already paying for HubSpot, send it out. Okay, awesome. So we've just looked through the lead objects there. Really simple backend for it. There's only a few settings, but worth turning on. Just generally, the pipeline functions much like your deal one. You also have tags as well. And so what we can do, I've just made a couple of examples today, which you'll see on the screen here. And then what we've got here is the tags are just saying 3 days in stage. And what I'm using here is there is just a time and current stage. So these are preset HubSpot calculation properties. They live on a few places, so deals have it, but leads have it too. So time and current stage, and what you're looking for there is just stagnation. You're looking for somebody who's been sat for a certain period of time, and we're just trying to flag that. So here, as an example, I've done 3 days. You will, however, see on these lead cards as well, I've popped another property, which is really important, and it's time to first touch. So again, this is calculated by HubSpot. It already pre-exists. And what you're looking at is that first engagement by your team. With what Cassy has said before, leads lose their value very quickly over the first hour. And so that value drops by over 10 times. And so time to first touch is going to become hugely important. And if we can start tracking this, that means we can then report on it. And so at a later date, you can then look at your reporting. You can go per owner, lead owner, and then you could break down the average time to first touch or the average time that it spends at each stage. A lead should be moving quite quickly through these boards. They shouldn't be sitting here. It should be contact, follow up with a sequence if you don't get hold of them. If you do, qualify, disqualify, and move them on. We have spoken about lead board in here a little bit, but we also have to touch on lifecycle stage. So a huge part of this process is built on lifecycle stage and understanding that and defining a few of them. So within HubSpot itself, you need to go to the contact settings, and you will notice a tab at the top which doesn't really appear anywhere else, and it's called lifecycle stage. And this is where you're going to come in. Firstly, you can configure them. HubSpot will have preset them in there, being subscriber, lead, MQL, SQL, opportunity, customer. You have the opportunity to add your own in here. I think for the most part, they cover them all that you would need, but feel free to edit them as necessary. And they're pretty obvious, the first one being subscriber, just somebody who's filled in maybe that little footer on your email, subscribe to him or news. Lead, when you've come through and you made it to the lead board. And so you'd have to set those definitions internally, but typically that's filling in a form or interacting with an ad.
I think this is where a lot of businesses get confused as well with the lead versus MQL, because my understanding of lead would be, it's a lead that's come through maybe mid or lower intent. It still needs a little bit more nurturing from marketing before it's warm enough to send over to sales. And I would say a marketing qualified lead, which sounds explanatory, but it's like, okay, marketing has seen some indicators that it's warm enough and ready to speak to sales, but it just hasn't yet been qualified by sales. So I would actually almost call MQL the trigger to send to the lead pipeline for the SDRs to qualify.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think when you click into the second tab here, you have this automate section on lifecycle stage, and there's 4 ones. So you can say, hey, you can set the lifecycle when a contact or company is first created. So you have the option there. You can not do it, but you can set it to something. We find that a lot of contacts get created through people's emails or, other areas of this. And so maybe you don't want to not a subscriber technically in your words, but maybe if somebody does make it through, they just get on your email list. So kind of an easy one there. But the next 3 or the next 2 are important. Lifecycle stage when a deal is created. So this is something for you to define. As by default, it actually sets it to opportunity rather than SQL. And so that's that. That choice there. If a deal is created, has it been sales qualified, or is it now an opportunity?
That's a good point.
Sales now need to have the chat, and then it's actually sales qualified. As an example, if somebody had a required site visit as the first step, say they went to the site and it wasn't suitable, if they were suitable, it could be an SQL, but if it wasn't, it would then go to lost. So if you did that site visit and it was a good fit and you then presented a quote, that's then sales qualified. I've had somebody use it like that before. So it's an opportunity. Then once sales have done whatever they need to do to say, yes, this is verified, especially if you're going marketing SDR, then sales, they then have to say SQL as potentially a deal stage. And so you use a stage trigger to change the layer.
Oh yeah, totally. Like you just got me thinking as well. This is a perfect example of how so many businesses have very different definitions and how they use these stages, and it's so like it's a standardized process, but it's also used so differently. And and now that you mention it, it does make sense as well for MQL to be okay, it's qualified for more targeted nurturing, SQL to go okay, it's ready for sales, to qualify, and then opportunity is okay, this is a qualified lead, it's now a deal, and we're taking those next consultative steps to convert it into a customer. That's a whole new perspective for me, and it makes total sense, and I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think that's why when deals creates opportunity, and then sales then have their input, because potentially an SDR might have missed something, as an example. I think the other thing to look at is, what is your internal definition of an MQL? Everybody's does differ. You've said it a few times today. You'd have to set that yourselves as your company. I think some people have it that if you've interacted with a piece of marketing material, you are then marketing qualified. E.g., I've seen an ad, I've submitted the ad form, I'm now marketing qualified. But I think you're on the right track of being where they need potentially a bit more, and we need to work out some indicators to define where they're at in their journey and if they are actually marketing qualified. One of the ones that I quite like is using the engagement score, lead scoring, but it's just for engagement. If you created a lead score that said every time you open a marketing email, you get 1 point. Every time you interact with an ad, you get a point. If you interact with our social media, do a website visit, each of these things is 1 point. You could then have a very potentially low barrier of entry. You could say, hey, if you've got 20 points, great, MQL. And because you're setting that definition, and you can actually do that in a workflow. I've created an example here. You could just have it that I've made this workflow here, and it just basically says, hey, if my marketing lead score here is equal to 30, I'm just changing the lifecycle stage of the contact to MQL. And then potentially after that point, you could then send an internal notification. Very, very simple to do.
And I think it's a good point as well that like you could have a good fit lead that if they're not showing enough engagement, they're still not ready to be sent over to sales, because it'll just go nowhere. And that just could be a waste of time for everyone involved. So it is really important to go, okay, well, they're a good fit and they're showing indicators that they're ready to like chat. That would be the perfect example. And like I think this is the difference really, is that lead scoring can be an overwhelming step for a business, especially if they're not using it. So to simplify that process and get it going, there's actually some resources that we'll share in the description below. But it's really a lead qualification matrix. It's really important for sales and marketing to have an internal discussion and actually just break it down to what is a sales ready lead? What behaviors need to happen for sales to go, yes, this is a person that we want to speak to that should be ready to be qualified or disqualified. But then also, what is a good fit versus a poor fit? Because if both marketing and sales are aligned on what is a good lead and what is a sales ready lead, then it's going to be much clearer on how to set up your basic lead scoring model to support your business and your product, and make sure that you're sending the right people to sales at the right time.
Yep, I think you've touched on it really well there. I think for businesses, if you don't have an ideal customer profile built, if you're not sure on the attributes or the right fit, start off with engagement. That's at the bare minimum, get an engagement score building. And then what you can do back on this lead board, you could have on your lead board, although the lifecycle stage can be different to the lead board. And this is what we're trying to just help people get across today. There's the word lead it's mentioned in 3 different areas. You have the lead object, the lead lifecycle stage, and then the lead status. And you have to remember that the lifecycle stage and the lead board are separate, and that's it. So the lead board is a way of tracking just the individual lead status. But what you could do within this lead board is you could highlight those that had reached MQL. So if you did have a trigger, which was hey, if their engagement score is 20 or 30, mark them as an MQL. Within this board, you could create a little tag that highlighted that this was an MQL at this point. So they've submitted into the lead area, they're engaging enough where we've qualified them as an MQL, and that highlights to your SDR. Go in here, give them a call.
And that's a really great example of when a business has a lot of leads, like
Correct.
Which ones do you target first? Which ones do you prioritize? If you have a really clear visual indicator to know which ones are the most engaged, I mean, that's a no-brainer. Those are the people I'm going to be calling first, because chances are I'm going to see success faster. And then I can work on the ones that may be less engaged over time. But yeah, I think so far we've talked about, okay, here's some housekeeping to get you set up.
Yep.
You know, the definition of leads and the handoff from marketing to sales.
Yep.
Now, what about when a lead is not qualified? Like the SDR goes and calls and qualifies them and realizes actually they're not ready to speak to sales. I think this is where we have touched a little bit on the re-engagement,
Yep.
but what about the process of I think a lot of businesses will go, once it's handed off to sales, it stays with sales.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also important to think about the loop back, because if they're just definitely not ready, they're nowhere near warm, and you know, one, it's a lesson to learn, but also it's like, what's your process to send it back to marketing to continue doing their nurturing until it's ready to come back through?
I think if it's got to the deal stage at that point, you'd potentially look at a specific deal stage, or you would look at updating the associated contacts lifecycle stage to something else. And so what we had previously was that when a deal gets created, the lifecycle stage goes to opportunity, and then it's supposed to go to SQL and then customer. If it gets to the deal area, one thing I would do is make sure it's pretty obvious, but track your lost reasons. I think it's a good idea if you looked at any deals where the source was the lead board, well, you can do that. There's a specific record source. And so on a deal level, you could look at any deals that came from the lead area, pre-qualification, that went through, that were lost, what were the reasons? And so if you are qualifying from the lead area into your sales team, and then they're still not closing, there's something wrong. And so you were saying that the feedback loop, I would be looking at lost reason. Potentially you'd want to look at a specific deal stage around re-engagement or nurturing, or those type of thing. You could enroll in a sequence, you could enroll in automated email communications, you could add them onto your marketing list. I think there's a fair amount you can do.
I think you can even have a targeted campaign that using those filters to go, okay, well, this is a segment that they've already started having a conversation with us, so they're a bit more familiar with the product and why us than other people. So let's, take them down that next level and that next layer of value to, for them to, because some people just need a little bit more time to understand that they need the service or the product, right?
Yep.
So
I think that falls into your matrix, which we will share with you also. HubSpot has there's a great lesson on the academy all around this, and kind of lifecycle stages, the qualification process, and also rolling from MQLs to SQLs, but also making sure your marketing and sales team are aligned. We've mentioned it a few times in previous hosts. It is one of the most important things. There is no point generating a lot of leads that are not suitable, because one, you will annoy your sales team, typically work on commission, and so a lot of their time is being spent with leads that aren't good. That is leads that the time they could be spending on people who are much better, and so then they lose faith in.
Oh, it's critical. Yeah,
it is critical.
Sure.
And so it's defining that. And I think one of the things you can do, I would always urge this, is at the end of every year or every 6 months, go back through the deals that you did win and find some attributes and a fit around those people. Where are they coming from? What are their job titles? How much are they spending? What type of deals are we closing? What products are they after? So you can, over time, build up the ideal customer profile. Then you take that back to marketing, and that is what you should then target. If you've got 60-70% of your deals are closing within a certain bracket, that is the targeting for your ad. So that's the feedback loop you're talking about. You have to go to your closed won deals, because over time your ideal customer profile might change. And so that's why I say every 6 months, go back through them, take a look. It's even just such simple things as location. Where are they coming from?
But I think also like customizing that closed lost reason or that disqualification reason is like adding in specific reasons that are very topical to your business, your product and everything will give marketing so much more insights as to what, like where we falling short. Is it the marketing? Is it the product? Is it the rep? Is it purely just timing? Is it the price? And then that can allow the business to make some like, key decisions that help them convert more as well.
When it comes to pricing, it should be obvious on the way in. How much does your product cost? What are you selling? Where can I get it? How quickly can I get it? What's the pricing? If somebody comes through and that very basic information they don't get hold of for a while, then they're shocked, then potentially you're changing your marketing strategy. Website, it's probably needed. But we mentioned it before, we'll share this matrix afterwards. It's all around
a really simple way to get your lead scoring kickstarted, I think.
And lifecycle stages as well. If you're a poor fit and unready, or there's poor fit and sales ready, or good fit and sales ready, and it works through. But you potentially look here, you go good fit and sales ready, MQL. But what if they're a good fit but they're not ready? Then that still can stay in that lead area for nurturing or other things. And so over time we get there. But yes, we will share that afterwards. I think there's two different models of this. But yeah, we've got a couple of little screenshots that we can put on the screen.
For sure, and that mentions there the hand raisers, and that's basically people that maybe they didn't necessarily do just behaviors or show like that they are a good fit or engaged. They're actually like raising their hand and saying, hey, I want to speak to you.
Submitting forms, emailing, following up.
You're directly direct inquiry form or contact us form, like that has to have its own dedicated process and be like beelining straight to sales because they're going, I want to talk to you.
But and that comes around the engagement score again. You can set brackets on the engagement score. If
it's this
30,
form, then like much higher score.
50, hit a salesperson, because to hit that in this one point, that means you've interacted with something 50 times. Or I'm giving you an example there, but it could be that it's 20 and 40. But if you hit 40, they must really be going on our website. They're invested. We need some assistance. So you're completely right. It's those the definitions internally of good fit, bad fits, hand raisers, and it can just be something simple as, if you sell a product that requires installation, it's something simple on your website forms is just putting, when do you want this installed? Because if somebody comes through and says, 6 to 12 months, they're not ready. And all you've done is ask them to drop down. But those that are putting, within the next 3, all right, you're our hand raisers. And so if you're looking at your website forms and you're really just asking for name, email, and a message, pre-qualify them just a little bit more. If they're on your website filling in 2 drop downs, it's not going to stop them from submitting.
For sure, yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, I think we've talked a fair bit about like the setup here and the handoff from marketing to sales, but I really want to get into the whole enablement piece because I think there's a lot of like quick wins for businesses that you can automate a lot of your processes to reduce that manual actions and follow up and everything, especially when it comes to notifying your team as quickly as possible when a hot lead comes in, because again, that's going to help you catch those leads while they're hot rather than letting them get colder and colder as the minutes go by. What have you got set up, Harry?
A couple of things I've set up here today, some really simple things with what Cassy said and what everybody knows is speed to lead. You're sitting there and it's basically creating a workflow that as soon as somebody enters your lead pipeline, it just sends them an SMS. And so you can choose the natural timing where you want that to happen. If somebody submits a form and the split second they do, they get an SMS, they might feel it's unnatural. We typically say 2-3 minute wait, because you've got to work out how long would it realistically take you to type a text so that it maybe seems natural. So yeah, you can build out a flow here, which is if they land in your lead pipeline, you could delay 2-3 minutes, send them a nice short SMS. It could contain your booking link in it, maybe a link to something, a PDF downloadable, something on your website. But either way, it sends them an SMS and then it sends a Slack notification internally. So we use Slack, you might use Microsoft Teams, all are compatible, but it's something where the team can come in and if you have a internal channel for new leads, it can just land in there. So say the person that the lead's been assigned to is off for the day or anything, ill, doesn't make it.
Make sure the whole team has visibility on it because the last thing you want is for something to go missing because it's gone to somebody that, I've seen it before where like leads are going to people that don't even work there anymore.
Your assignment's wrong, your rotation is wrong, or you've got to put in those branches that are potentially, we've seen it before where you want the even distribution, but you've also got there's some distributions in HubSpot now which work on who's assigned the most, and so you can split the branches evenly. And there's other things you can do there. But
I think that instant messenger like notification to the whole team is really good, and you can use that as a way to also communicate quickly as I'm on it. And if somebody's on lunch or something, then somebody else can be like, cool, don't worry, I'll jump on it as well. So,
and it's peace of mind knowing the text has gone to them. No, you are obviously the reason that this is important. If somebody's got their mobile number wrong or anything's incorrectly on the phone,
totally, that SMS won't work.
So the Slack channel goes in, and then it goes in. And I would say you could utilize these internal groups. I would say create a couple. You could have a new leads one, and then you could have a stagnant leads one, and you could have one in there that's, if it hasn't moved for 5 days, it just hits it into the Slack channel. Again, somebody might have been off, somebody else might have been busy. Let's just make sure we're following up with them.
I think as well, like for sales managers, having like a little like health check dashboard also comes in handy, where just at a glance you can see what's going on with your lead pipeline. Is there anything that has been missed, and so you can get someone on it ASAP. And then you can have your deal reporting as well. So it's all in one space, and all those important metrics are being seen. And you can also have reporting on, the disqualification reasons and the volume of leads coming through. So then you can also, validate that marketing's doing, following through with their commitment on how many leads are coming through, but the quality is staying there too.
And also, you're right, marketing know that they're actually being followed up on, so their efforts aren't being wasted. You're completely right on the reporting side. I think it would have to be, if you're a sales manager, a mix between views and reporting.
Yes, you've got some great views set up here, actually.
Yeah, a couple of examples. One of the other ones you talked about, enablement. I've done this very recently, is that we enroll people in a sequence at attempting. And so what happens with one of my clients at the moment is they get a lead in, they contact them straight away, as you said, really quickly. They actually go for the phone call. Phone calls are winning over everything these days because inboxes are getting too full. Now, if somebody doesn't answer the phone, they leave them a voicemail. But what they do then, if they drag it from new into attempting for my client, it then automatically rolls them in a one-to-one sequence. It's 4 emails over 12 days, and there's a couple of cool tasks sprinkled in there as well.
Is that an enterprise feature?
It is. So it's a service or sales enterprise feature. I'm just letting you guys know about that. So if you do have those subscriptions, yes, Cassy is correct to point that out. Yeah, we've done that through a workflow, which is where you change the lead stage to attempting, and then it puts them automatically in that sequence.
If you don't have enterprise though, it is very easy to still enroll it and just drill it into your team as part of the process. If you've tried to call them and you have no luck, you move them to that stage, and then you click on the contact and enroll them into the specific
It's actually,
sequence.
I'll show you right here. So you actually just click on the lead card, and then you have these little buttons up the top, and I think maybe people don't know about this, but you can actually reorder these buttons. And so you have call, email, task, meeting. If you click more, you can reorder them, because sequence didn't used to be in here. I kind of move it there for my clients because I think it's one of the most useful ones. But
if it's not visible, it's not going to get used, right?
Correct. And so I can't remember what the 5th one typically is, but I normally, whenever I get in a client's portal, I put sequence straight there. And it's also noting for everyone that in the back end of a sequence, you can auto-enroll on form. So if you do make a sequence, which is those one-to-one email templates, in the back end here under automate, you can pick, it says here, they added it last year. Now it's a bit of an interesting strategy with enrolling straight in a sequence, because I think people find that personal touch of a phone call is really useful, but if it does work for your business, then yes, you could have, if anybody fills in your Google Ads form or your Meta form, you could turn it on, then they go straight into the sequence.
I think if your sales cycle is a longer process, rather than those quicker, quick to qualify, disqualify, that would make sense, right? Is that pro or enterprise for the form?
It's actually just sales pro, yeah. So
perfect.
Sales professional there. So we've given you 3 ways you can get people on a sequence. I think we're finding more and more people want to use them, and we are moving more towards them for sales teams because personal outreach wins, but marketing emails they get blocked. They come in, people can unsubscribe, but these sequences are those one-to-one emails. And
email servers are getting much smarter with filtering those marketing emails directly over to a promotion inbox as well. So
and engaged.
A lot of people just don't even see them. So yeah, having those sales emails going out when they're like the reason is legitimate, I think is also a really key tactic that should be tapped into.
Yeah, so going back to the views we created here, the reason we touched on sequence is I have one that says not in sequence. And so if you're personally reaching out to these leads and your sequence is maybe 12 to 14 days, you might lose track of who's in the sequence, who's not. You can find it on a contact level, but it would be very useful to find it at your lead board level.
Totally.
So I created a not in sequence one, which it utilizes the contact property, primary contacts enrolled in sequence. I've said is not true. So if they've either finished or not started, and then we've got no upcoming activity. So again, really useful for a sales manager looking at this and it's saying, okay, you've been sat, this one here, give you an example in our little test portal here. It's been sat for 10 days. It's over 3 days in stage as it's flagging here, and there's no upcoming activity.
Are you using the property for next activity date on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because I love that one, but I think a lot of people get tripped up on it as well because like next activity date is based on whether you have a task set up in the future to follow them up.
Yeah.
But that task, sometimes they do it on the contact level. It needs to be on the lead level here for it to show up. So you need to also make sure it's associated to the lead because you could have internal staff. If it's an existing customer that you might be upselling or cross-selling, you could have your accounts team having tasks to do things that could be on the contact level and it's not related to the lead. So it's just important to make sure you're putting your tasks in the right place.
They can have a look into it, but yeah, it's one of the standard HubSpot properties. I think what's great about any of the standard HubSpot properties, if you go into them, it gives you the full definition there of those activities. But yes, you are right, you'd need to make sure it's here. But aside from that, as we mentioned earlier, for the sales manager reporting, you could go and look on the first time to touch average across all of the sales reps in here, or SDRs, whatever you're using, and then time in current stage as well. As you say, I've put little tags on here to highlight ones that are potentially going stale, but I would say if you have that internal SLA around, all right, you can't spend more than 3, 4, 5 days here, notification into Slack channel, little bubble appears here, very easy to filter by. So there's a couple of ways that they can get that information they needed and go from there. I think it's worth noting, you say with all these tools, it's less of a policing, more enablement. It's visible for them to assist them in their role.
It's a much better way instead of having like your manager going, what's going on here, and feeling like they're breathing down your neck all the time. It's like have the system set up to enable them to see exactly what's expected of them, what needs to be actioned, and drive the right behaviors through training with your team, and they can hold themselves accountable to do their day-to-day that way. You just got to give them visibility.
It's all around the enablement. If you come in and you can have tags sitting here, notes sitting here, time in current stage, different things that you're trying to focus on, then you're enabling them by giving them tasks, by giving them the sequences that they can use and all these other things. It's less of a policing tool. And some people might see it as that, you're tracking how quickly we're reaching out to people, you're just trying to improve that, and it's explaining that to them that that's a vital statistic for us to close more. We're trying to help everybody in the business win.
Also, me as a sales rep, I would like to know what my conversion metrics are.
Yep.
How many leads do I need to contact before I can convert them into a customer? What is my activity level expectation? So I can make sure that I'm doing the numbers to get the results I want at the end of each month. So, and those data is king.
Reports are all available. You've got activity reports per user, but as you've just said there, you can definitely look at the disqualification qualification. You can do count of deals per person, break down are they disqualified or qualified, and you can see who has the best conversion.
Training opportunities.
Correct.
Like who needs a little bit more product knowledge.
And also, if they are disqualifying a large amount of them more than others, and then the reason, potentially looking into some of the call recordings, okay, how are you disqualifying more than others, but are you disqualifying better? And then potentially looking at, hey, the leads that you send over to sales are
much higher quality.
Higher quality. So you look like you're disqualifying more leads, but your conversion for sales team is much higher.
Yeah, so they're going to favor your leads way more than others.
Yeah.
So
it's not necessarily that someone's doing a bad job if they're disqualifying more. Are you disqualifying better? We want the right fit going to sales so we don't waste their time. So there's a lot of tools in here.
Yeah,
Financial year is coming to a head for certain people. There's going to be chasing all these, but I think the main thing for us is start looking through this. If you don't already use the lead object, which we've we have built this around today. We are pushing it a little bit more, as in for people to use it, make people aware of it. If you've not used it, I would create lists of people based on the lifecycle stage that are not associated to a deal.
And that could be your beginning of a lead.
That could be your beginning. You could say, if your last activity date was 6 months ago, you're not associated with a deal. Your lead lifecycle stage is a certain lifecycle stage, or lead status if you've used it. You could then, that could be your start point. Because I had this the other day with people, it was like, there was 4,000, and they were like, where do we even start? And so they had to try and create how would we find these people and then go through it. So I would start building this out for the rest of this year, start of next year, but definitely have your ads and those really top of funnel people that just click on an ad. I would put them through the lead area, nurture them, qualify them, and then hand them off.
No time like the present, especially if you're planning on doing any end of financial year campaigns. Get your team into good habits right now so that they can capitalize on those higher volume of leads in June.
And see what data you're missing. You may go in and go, we've got nowhere to start, this lifecycle stage is wrong, this is wrong. Okay, that's great. It's good that you know now, let's fix it up.
Brilliant. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much, Harry. I think this has been really insightful, and I think that I hope that you guys are also getting some value from this. If you do have any other questions, feel free to let us know. We're happy to help. Just a quick reminder to make sure you register for our next hug next month, where we'll do another deep dive on another topic. But yeah, the link is in the description below. Thanks so much.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great day, guys.